Good evening, one and all.
I've just about had enough of you.
All right. Time to proceed. Not sure how long we'll go on for tonight. Went on longer last night than I was planning. Don't have a whole lot of time tonight. But let's see. Let's try and get the fire done. That's going to be the main goal for tonight. Greetings, Breath Beddit's alt account. How are you doing? Just started 6 minutes ago. Tis true. Tis true. Just finished my exam. Dandy. Hope it went well. This is my name, my main. I changed my name. Indeed. Indeed. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for some of these images. If I'm going to actually try and make it look like it's fire, or try and make them color. Maybe will just be black and white, and the fire will be going around them. Maybe I'll do this. I'll have this my background color. Clarp. Yeah, it is fire, isn't it? Fire. Much appreciated. It's coming along. It is getting very, very close to starting to enter the final stage of the process. It's taken a long time to do, and that's for the best. You need some things every now and again that challenge you, and this has been my challenge. Try and get this thing done. It's been a very difficult one to try and accomplish for a variety of reasons. One of the things that I have learned along this process is how to I would say it's how to plan ahead. The need to try and make sure that your artwork is set in a design before you go on to the final sketch. This one, I really put a lot of time and effort into that, more so than I've done in the past. And I would say it's panned out, but there's a couple of shortcuts I took that didn't quite have any payout. So I'm going to have to try and avoid those in the future. I am looking forward to having this thing done eventually. There's a lot of other things I want to be able to work on. And this is a fun one to work on, but I need to move on to something that's more in line with the actual story itself. Because this is beneficial, don't get me wrong. I need to learn how to draw faster. I need to be able to draw more scenes to this story. But I need to also get the first part of the story out there really before long. Interest will wane, and I want to try and make sure that I don't spend all my time working on this when I need to be getting ready for the next thing. Light kidnapped me. Poor Bastion. You know, Bastion, eventually you're just gonna put your foot down and say, no Light, no kidnapping. No bonking. Anyway, hope you're having a good evening there, Bastion. You know, besides the kidnapping part. By the way, this is going to be one of our last times we're going to be on Twitch. Today is technically the last day I'm going to be streaming to this platform. We're going over to YouTube and Rumble after this, only, along with the addition of X. And I've been torn. I've been going back and forth about whether or not to actually go through with this. But I keep coming back to one of the main points. Well, there's two main points. One, it's a completely different audience that has a complete different set of interests and ideas, and that can be beneficial. The second part is I cannot put up with the violent rhetoric on Twitch. It's just gotten too much. I'm at a loss, trying to figure out the best way to kind of move forward with this. And I'm certain that I need to just pull the plug on it. But I realize there's a lot of connections that I have on there. So it's going to be a tough one. I'm going to probably be second guessing myself for a long time. But I mentioned kind of my ultimatum of this is where I will have to draw the line. And that line got crossed many times and a while back. So it's going to need to happen. It may not happen forever, but it will happen for a substantial amount of time. And get out of here, bot. Denied. Stupid bots. Don't they know that I'm trying to get rid of all ties to that platform? Gerardus, run! Oh no. Bastion. You need to be careful. Do not underestimate the light. Oh, light! Greetings. Fancy seeing you here. Somehow I have a feeling like Bastion kind of sounds a little bit like this.
I'm too weak. Don't kill me, please.
Well, that sound was way off. All right. How are you doing, Light? You know, besides taunting Bastion. This style of fire is working a lot better. Still not 100% satisfied with it, but, you know, it's about as close as I'm going to get. So I'm happy enough. It's the first time of drawing fire substantially. I've drawn fire before, but never to this degree. Like everything in art, you keep learning. Like that. I don't like that style right there. I'm going to pull that back. Keep this kind of this splitting sort of style here. I'm not kidnapping him, first of all. Other than that, I've been goodies. You? Oh, yeah, you know, I've been fine and dandy. It's been quite the summer. Looking forward to how this fall will shape up. You know, I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that Bastion might be spreading lies. That could be a problem. I kind of feel like that almost deserves a boot to the head. I like that. Maybe fewer splittings. Yes. That way it has a stronger feel to it. Like that's too much. There we go. Come on. There we go. You know, I'm reminded, a while back, I was trying to learn how to draw scenery. And I'd never drawn scenery before, not with any real effort. And I ended up fighting with it substantially. I drew one big scene with it, and then I drew a bunch of little shots that each one got a little bit better. Some of them got worse. But once you've done something for the first time, it becomes a lot easier. And that kind of goes with, well, most things in life. And some things can become super overwhelming to you until it finally happens. And you're like, you know, that wasn't so bad. Sometimes it's the buildup that makes things so very, very overwhelming. There's a lot of things in my life that have kind of been that way. It's a tough one, though. if you know that you have something that you struggle with, you're like, how do I overcome this hindrance? Sometimes the patience to wait can be very difficult. The patience to be able to sit down and deal with it for the first time can be truly overwhelming. There was one thing, I won't mention what it was necessarily, but there was something a couple of years back where it was super, super overwhelming. I started breaking out into sweats just because I was so outside of my comfort zone. Now, it doesn't happen a whole lot. Now, some people, that for them is public speaking. I lost that a while back. It's still something you can get nervous about, even if you've had practice galore. But I don't get panicked in the same way that some others do. But it doesn't mean that I am completely immune from it. There's just some other things that are like, ooh, dang, that actually is way more difficult than I ever thought it would be. And it's kind of interesting to realize that a lot of those things kind of, they can take you by surprise. You can be certain that you're going to be just fine with something, and then you're panic-stricken. Now, there's someone I know, a celebrity, and I don't know them any more than one-time encounters, than a one-time encounter here. But this person is very, very nervous in a very common, everyday sort of activity. And just being around people can be overwhelming for this person, to the point of where they start to freak out. And I know about this because they found a person to help them, almost like, you could say it was almost like a therapy dog, but in human form. And this person did nothing more than be their therapy companion with them. They go to an event and conversations would start to be struck up, and slowly but surely this panic would start to set in, and this person would eventually kind of need to leave, and so then, or have to find a graceful way to leave, and so they would turn to this person that they brought with them. It can be very difficult, especially if you're somebody of note, to have to deal with something that is overwhelming and unnerving. One of the worst things that can happen is somebody comes up and decides to ridicule you for it. It's one of the reasons why I won't mention who it is or what it was that they were dealing with, because I don't want to eventually have somebody, in the rarest occasion that it could happen, be confronted with them and have to deal with the challenge of that, and knowing that I kind of contributed to it. But it is something where I keep thinking about it. Keep thinking about the difficulty of overcoming fear, overcoming the challenges of being thrown into something that you are unfamiliar with. Now, for some people, that can be as simple as public speaking. It could be something like it could be something like an interaction with certain folks that where you have to take lead. It could be something where you are dealing with people and you have to perform of some kind, either a speech or whether it's music. By the way, that is one of mine. I do not do well playing music. And it was a horrible, horrible experience. Sweating, unable to move, and I hated it. I was bad at music to begin with. Throw that on top of it, it made me atrocious. I hated it so much that after, I think it was my 5th recital, I finally went up to my parents and said, who were very determined to make me learn music. I went up to them and I said, no, never again. I'm never doing that again. I had never really done that before. I didn't really do it afterwards. That was one of the few times where I'm like, no, I have to put my foot down. I cannot deal with this. And so my musical career came to an end. Now, could it have been good for me to keep doing it? Most likely. I mean, it couldn't have necessarily been terrible. I could have learned a skill set. Maybe I would have fared better. I maybe could have written music and not have to worry about all the stock stuff all the stock music out there. Maybe it could have happened. Maybe not. You don't really know until it's all kind of said and done. But one thing you have to remember, some people are going to be highly uncomfortable. And you have to be willing and ready to let things slide. You don't know what's going to be. And rather than try and force someone down that path, it may be necessary for you to pull back. Now, this happened to me recently. Well, relatively recently. And it took me by surprise just how overwhelming it was. And I backed up and I told friends and family, I was like, I don't ever want to do that again. That was deeply troubling and deeply overwhelming. I just pulled back and I was like, I can't do it. Now, in retrospect, now that some time has passed, I can definitely say it wasn't as bad as it felt in the moment. It wasn't as overwhelming in retrospect, but it sure felt like it at the time. Would it happen again? Probably. I don't see any reason why that would change. But the more you do something, the more comfortable you become with it. And that's the main takeaway. If you allow yourself to always be overcome with fear, you will not be able to overcome and move on. You won't gain a new skill. You'll be stuck fearing a shadow, and that can prevent you from all sorts of great opportunities. You know, I found out I've missed out on some very big opportunities in my life because of this fear. Big opportunities. So, what's the best thing to do? Do you just force someone to go along with it and say, "Well, you'll get used to it. Things will get better for you eventually"? I mean, it might help. But what if it doesn't? I think the best thing to probably do, if you are trying to overcome something, is to find someone that cares. Somebody that is comfortable, who can be able to help ease you into it. Not everything is going to be, you're not going to be prepared for everything in this life. There's going to be some things that inevitably you are going to find out the hard way that you were not properly prepared. You have to try and find somebody who is comfortable with it. Somebody who doesn't mock. Maybe you're going to be that person for somebody. Maybe you're going to be the one to reach out and say, hey, you know what? It's not so bad. Here, let me walk alongside you. Help you get your feet wet with this. Help you to overcome the challenge. Not to mock them. Not to try and push them into it, but to guide them into it. To make it easier for them. It's important to think about that. Because you don't know what someone's going through. And you don't know what it is that caused them to be the way that they are. But you definitely can be the one to help them move on from it. Life is going to be full of difficult situations. It's going to be full of all sorts of great and wonderful and frustrating things. And if we have each other's back, well, we're able to endure a lot more for a lot longer. When I was back at college, I experienced a couple of moments where I did not have the faintest idea of how to move forward. And I went up to an advisor and I mentioned, like, hey, I am overwhelmed with this. I don't know how to proceed. And now this is one of those situations where I went to someone seeking help, seeking advice. And I was told something very unfortunate. I was told, that will pass. And I was shown the door. So I went to a different advisor, a different counselor. They did the exact same thing. They showed me the door. And I thought, aren't these people supposed to, have an interest in wanting to help? What I learned during that time frame is that those people don't really want to be bothered. What they really want, more than anything, is to get their paycheck and write off that they helped a student and to call it quits after that. Really, there are so many people that is how they behave. Well, then when you come across a student who is seriously having issues, you don't know what to do because you yourself never actually figured out the solution. You're an advisor, you're a helper, but you never actually were in the trenches, so to speak. You were, for lack of a better term, you were just an ear to listen, and you were not somebody of action. Well, my semester went very badly, and the help that I thought I was going to get from the advisor, from the counselor, didn't actually help, because there was none. I was shown the door. So how did I move past from it? Because obviously, it's been many years. Well, a lot of it came down to the fact that, well, things are for a season. Some of it was resolved by itself. Some of it, I learned along the way techniques to be able to overcome it. Some other things ended up being far less problematic than they felt like they were going to be. But you know, there was a little bit of it where I still could not overcome it after all that time. I found out solutions for all of those other things, but I couldn't find out all the solutions. Now that can be overwhelming. You can say, well, that can be almost crippling, you could say. But it doesn't have to break you. And that's the takeaway that I want to bring up. You're not going to be able to overcome every challenge. But you do have the choice to allow it to break you or to learn from it so that you can be able to help others along the way. Now, if I see somebody that's dealing with some of the same challenges I was doing, I have some ideas. Every one of us will have a series of experiences that we can be able to glean from. And you know, God will give us those experiences because He wants us to know and give us the ability to help others along the way. I don't know all the challenges people are going to deal with, but I do know this. It is not wasted. It can feel like it at times, but it's not wasted. And it is being used for a purpose. You may not like that fact, but it's still going to be good in the end. By the way, reminder, we will be moving the, until further notice, we're going to be moving all the streams away from Twitch. So if you have channel points, be sure to mention it. I'll convert it over to pieces of silver. They'll be able to be used on stuff like this. The stickers and whatnot. Still got to get that part figured out. That like on the website side. But anyway, just a reminder: don't have long until we will be closing that down, because that is going to happen today. For the time being, there might be a reason to bring it back. I don't know if I'm ready to do that just yet. Some things have to change at Twitch. And I was waiting for a statement from their leadership, and their statement was, not good at all. It was very, very troubling, actually, because it basically pointed the finger and said, we're not to blame, we don't have any control over this situation. And I was like, nope, you do. Because I know the people that they've canceled. And then for them to just say that, oh, well, we don't really care about the rhetoric other people are saying now. It's like, well, I do have a problem with it. I do have a problem with all the violent rhetoric that is taking place. And I am done looking the other way. Gonna get myself some more water and ice. Be right back. Greetings, Jersey. How you doing? I watched the video that you sent. It was very interesting. Interesting discussion. I know one of the men that, well, I actually know both of the men that were in the interview. I've listened to them give a couple of messages here and there. The one in the center was recently on Tucker Carlson. A smart fella. I don't agree with him 100% on his on some of his views, but he definitely has been in the thick of it. He's had to deal with a lot of real tough challenges. He's got some good points that I have always been able to learn from. How are things going with you? We're going to try and start coloring Milo in here. Get some rough ideas of what his coloration is going to look like. And then we'll correct it before actually doing any sort of cell stuff or whatnot. Do you know how to export an illustration in a GIF format? I made a short 24-frame illustration, but I don't see a GIF thing. That is indeed a challenge. You are not going to be able to do that on standard programs. I don't know why. It is very frustrating, I admit. Unfortunately, I don't know of a program necessarily that can do that, but I do know that there are websites to help out with that. If you go onto the web and type in GIF Maker, it will ask you to import in an image sequence. And from there, you're able to time it out, select your frames, and proceed from there. I've used it a couple of times to use GIF Maker. I was trying to find tools that I could, install onto my PC, but unfortunately, there's a program element to it, and most encoders don't like to do that. I don't know why. I understand that Shutter Encoder can help out with that, but to my knowledge, I don't know the actual process for that just yet. I can try recording it with a Bandcam and edit it in another program. So what you need to do is you need to edit it, export it as an image sequence. From there, you take it onto GIF Maker, and you can easily do it from there. File export animations is a separate thing. It worked. Oh, perfect. Did that happen in the program? If so, that's a new feature. Or at least new within, last time I checked was 3 years ago, so. I was wondering if I could even do this kind of thing with the Pro version, but I had no issues. So I don't know what the EX offers now. Oh, okay. Yeah, there is a chart online that shows the things that EX offers that Pro does not. I know that some of the stuff for animation is a bit more smoother over here, but I don't know what the current listings of the different tool differences are. I know that it does have export differences, but it's been a while since I've inspected that one. Allergies are getting to me, so we're in the last bits of kind of the harvest season up here, and I can kind of feel it in the air. It's a bit shaky animation for me, but I guess it's due to my disregard on quality. It's kind of hard to be able to know the best method to animate with. I've gone back and forth. Some of my animations happen very quickly. Some of them take forever. So yeah, it's expect your quality will just slowly grow over time. turn that to add. And now let's add this in the background. Let's create some dusk-like shading. See how this turns out. Right now, this is just the concept phase, and so from there, I'll create like an actual palette of colors to work with. I'm very bad when it comes to picking colors. I have to do a lot of kind of feel for it. I have to be able to go along and just experiment with it and pull out colors that I think work well together. Some other people have it down to a science. They can just quickly generate the colors and it all looks good. I'm no such, I have no such skills, not right now at least. So I'm going to the extremes, and then I'll pull things back here. Question is, do I have to do what sort of background colors will I need for this? What if I go to here and try reference image with this? Do you pearl noise on the blending mode or leave it with just a normal one? I tend to leave it normal. I'll add different types of texturing. Golly, I might have to close the window here. I already forgot how I did the previous work. Oh no. With this picture, will it be used in a book or just a standalone thing? So this one right here is going to be used as a promotional thing. It will be used for some stuff moving forward. It'll be just a graphic that I can pull up and utilize as needed. But primarily it's going to the person who requested it. It'll probably get used on like, I want to try and do intro slideshow, and this will be among that stuff. There's some other things as well. The book cover is going to be one of the next things that I do. But not this book cover. No, it's going to be Pharaoh and the Smith. Pharaoh and the Smith is going to be given a new cover because I had a stand-in for the current one, and I need to update it with a drawn version to fit the narrative, especially since I'm in the final stage of the process of. I'm just in the process of listening to the story right now, reading through it, making sure it sounds good, and then. Once the art is done, I can slap it on there and put it out there. It's not going to be a very complex drawing. It's going to be a fairly simple one. Kind of impressionist in a couple of ways because I don't want it to be distracting from the story. And it doesn't have to be there for it to be published. I just want to have it for when I promote it. Which, I have 2 days off this next week, and I'll be utilizing some of that to try and do that. Stand by to say, I need to close the window and get a tissue. I exported it as a GIF and the quality dropped a lot. Is this what GIF formatting does? Unfortunately, yes, it does. Now, it depends on the software and the technique that you're doing. It shouldn't have a massive drop. It should be more a drop in frame rate than quality, unless you have the settings turned around. What is your dimensions for your image? Remember, GIFs prefer smaller images over bigger ones. I'm going to do a little bit of cheating here. I'm going to grab an image and use this as my color palette because I really like how this one is set up. Really like this one. Kind of a very similar feel there. Let's create the color palette. Is that too big? Yes. That is way too big. GIFs tend to prefer images that are maybe 1,000 pixels across max. When you get up higher than that, it gets a lot harder to do. So I would suggest trying to reduce that resolution a substantial amount. If you want to have it play though, like if you're trying to export it as a video, it will play a lot better than as a GIF. If you want it as a GIF though, that's where the problems occur. Let me pull up an example. Go over here. Dot GIF. This is a GIF that I did for Daramuth. A fairly simple GIF, using a 3D hat and glasses and spinning it around. And you'll notice that it has some quality loss, but it's also a very low resolution. I believe this one is 250 pixels across, so fairly small, but with it you're able to play it relatively easily. Here is another one. Here we go. This is another one. This was a much larger one. I believe the image was 800 pixels across. And it took a while to figure out. What is this? Weird. All right, but anyway, 800 pixels, 1,000 pixels across, that's going to be ideal. If you want to export it as a video, though, that will preserve your quality to what you originally wanted it to be, which is what I would advise you to do for the most part.
this process of trying to make color palette can be very helpful, especially if you don't know the proper way to do color theory. And I am definitely someone who does not know. So observing is a good way to do it. Now, back in the day, I would have been trying to mix colors and comparing it over and over again. With a color picker, it speeds up that process a lot. All right. AVI is okay. It is very big. I do not trust AVI. It causes a lot of glitches. MP4. MP4 is definitely better. It works. I just wish I could loop it like a GIF, but the quality didn't drop. So it depends on where you're trying to put it. Like if you're trying to create a video, you can be able to loop the video. If you want to create it as an image to share with folks, then yeah, a GIF is going to be ideal. Just expect that there's going to be a quality drop. It really does depend on the destination. And that's something I learned when I was in my encoding class. Yes, we had to take an encoding class when I was in college. It was frustrating. I hated it because it was very difficult to know the proper procedures to move forward. There was no manual. The manual was very difficult to try and follow because it didn't make sense. So what the teacher did tell us, though, is that we need to experiment with the different formats. We have to find out our destination. We have to experiment with different formats until we reach one that we are happy with. Then we create a preset of that moving forward. So whenever we need something, we can just utilize it in a moment. Now, I used to have all sorts of presets figured out. And unfortunately, when I left Adobe, I lost all those presets, and I've struggled to find a new set of presets that I've really been happy with. File exporting has become very subjective, and also kind of irrelevant, because a lot of machines can play that stuff without any problems. It used to be that only certain computers could play certain qualities, and now that is no longer a factor. I think that'll work much better. I'll change the rest of the colors here after a while, but I'm going to start by giving now some base colors to Milo. And we'll go to... I don't know how long we'll go for tonight. We'll go for... probably get Milo done, and then we might start coloring Yukon. I don't know. We'll see how long this process takes. So hide that for the time being, and let's just go forward with base colors. One of the things that Milo represents is a man torn by life's experiences. He represents what happens when you are trying to do the right thing but mess up. In his story arc, the way that his story really begins is he makes a major mistake, and he follows his passion rather than logic. And in doing so, he ends up losing everything. He comes from a well-off background. In a moment of passion, though, and frustration, he ends up lashing out, and he is punished for his action. After spending time in prison, he eventually is released, and he starts to go west. This is something that we've covered in the live streams in the past, so this is nothing like top secret for the story. This is already known lore. But he has this very difficult background that could have made him bitter at the world. And instead, he is trying to figure out how to navigate it with the realization that he messed up, and he wants to try and find a way to recover, because he's not allowed to go back to where he came from. He's not allowed to reset with the people that he wronged. He can only... he's become an outcast. And in doing so, it tries to explore a lesser known aspect of America's history. And that is the experience of the pioneers who went deep into the American wilderness. As the story goes, he is a civil man cast out to live among very uncivil men. Well, one of the things these uncivil men challenge him on is his foundations of right and wrong. Because there's a lot of people throughout the West that didn't have any sort of hesitation to pull out their weapons in a moment's notice and deal with their enemies with lead. Now, Milo lost everything because he does something very similar in his youth. And so thus, when he goes west, that's the one thing that he is not allowed to do. He is not allowed to use his weapons. Now, this is a personal choice, and this is something that is what gives his character the arc that it does. There's not many Wild West stories you're going to see out there where the hero has a weapon and doesn't use it. It sounds kind of ridiculous, honestly, to a lot of folks. They would look at something like that and say, that's stupid. How can you go through the wilderness without using... How can you go through the wilderness dealing with awful people and not be using it? Well, Milo is a man that is driven by faith, and you get to see how that pans out for him. Now, there's another story out there that another person wrote that kind of does a very similar sort of approach, But instead, it's supposed to be about trying to justify extreme violence. And that sort of story never set well with me. I'm a very peaceful sort of fellow. And I have seen people taken advantage of by folks that are violently minded. And it never turns out well for anybody. Now, we are supposed to be on a journey of life together. That's one of the things that when Christ sent us out into the world, he wanted us to win souls. It becomes very difficult if you try and do that with a weapon in hand. Now, Milo's not going out to be a missionary. That's not the main story. But he is somebody that is going to have to wrestle with the challenge of good and evil, right and wrong, all the same. And I hope that when the story does come out, that it will be a compelling narrative, because it has some interesting twists and turns that really were the reason why I wanted to write it in the first place. Because I started realizing, hey, there's some really dramatic sort of situations that the character could find himself in without the ability to use a weapon. That suddenly raises the stakes a whole lot. Now, it doesn't mean that he avoids conflict, but it does mean that he has limitations on himself, in an understanding that he will have to give an account for everything that he does in life. How many of us, if we were challenged to do what was right if it meant that it would cost us everything, would be willing to go through with it? I dare say, especially in our modern times, not as many people, but even back then, there were a lot of folks that they would prefer just to let all this trouble just pass them by. Don't interject with it and whatnot. Oh, greetings there, Neurodivergent. Much appreciated for coming by. Sorry, just saw that. I don't know how long you've been here. Problem of trying to manage 3 different chats here. But so there was a story that I heard about somebody that had a similar sort of story arc. And I remember being just enthralled with it and thinking, this is really intriguing. But I've not seen anybody do this sort of style of story since. And so I'm really looking forward to getting to share that with folks. All right, I'm free now. Good night, says Bastion. Good night, sir. I hope you find a solution for the very troublesome light who keeps causing you so much grief and suffering. Oh, you suffer so much. See you later. Oh, I just noticed I need to change the frame rate to match the amount of frames. Or is it automatic? The frame rate needs to be based upon how many frames per second it needs to be. So if it's supposed to be 15 frames per second, well, you need to have a knowledge that every second is going to need 15 drawings or 15 steps. All good. Hope all is well. Things are going decent, Neurodivergent. What have you been up to? We're just in the process of trying to add some color to the scene. We're almost done in comparison to, the whole process from start to finish. I'm looking forward to having this drawing done because while I really enjoy it, I need to get prepared for the next step in this process. And that means getting some artwork done for the first things that are going to be coming out. And this one's not really going to be as relevant. It will help for promotion stuff, but it's not going to be like really driving a whole lot of the story moving forward. It's going to be this is how the story begins. It's not where it's going to go. And there's some pretty dramatic scenes I kind of want to try and draw over time. I won't be showing those scenes just yet. I've already drawn one, and it didn't quite turn out the way I wanted, so I have to just get better at the process of drawing so I can be able to go back and fix that sort of stuff. So if the whole animation has 24 frames and lasts for 2 seconds, do I need to set it to 12 frames per second? Yes. I would set it to 12. Recommendations are just that, recommendations. You don't have to follow them. They're just supposed to be there because they need a number to put in there. It's better than putting in like 0, for example. You'll be in the clear if you go with 12. I'll mention again, we are going to be leaving the Twitch side for a time. I don't know if it'll be permanently, but it will be for a while. So we're going to be on YouTube and Rumble. And we're also going to be on X. So channel points can be converted for one more day, and then it's gone. Well, technically just for a few more minutes, then it's gone. For, until the stuff comes back. Now, one of the things I will say for this transfer to another platform, there is the possibility that there is the possibility that I'll rekindle it in the future, probably in a couple of months. I don't know if it will be a permanent solution, but there's a couple of folks I want to try and reach out to, and those people have not been online for a while, and they seem to come online every couple of weeks, and I'm trying to not lose contact with them. And so in a couple of weeks I may change things around a little bit, just so I can try and get in touch with these folks again before we shut down that side completely. But this is all because of Twitch's overlook of violent rhetoric. So, Twitch, if you change that policy, things will be a little bit better. But your leadership is endorsing it by their silence. Do you know what dithering does? You shouldn't need dithering for this. Dithering is a process to help blend some elements together. It can be helpful, but you have to really be planning ahead for it to really benefit from it. You're not going to need it. You're not going to need it. I found a walkaround for the GIF export thing. I had to manually change the GIF resolution to match the PNG resolution. The quality didn't drop, but the colors are weird now. So I guess it's a GIF thing. Yes, it is. So if you know about bit depth, that will help you to better understand what is going on. So if I was to be trying to pick colors for this drawing. Right now you'll see up in the upper left hand side of the screen, you'll see the color palette, the color wheel that I'm working with. I'm able to select things on this triangle. I'm able to rotate it around on the hue, whatnot. I have a lot of colors to choose from. But what a GIF does is more akin to this, a bunch of small colored squares. Rather than have an entire spectrum, they actually have a lot less. So like, notice right here, notice these colors as it goes from bright to dark. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 colors. It's reducing the colors to something like this. Rather than have maybe a couple different shades of red, it just has one shade of red. It compresses it, so that way it is able to work with the file size a lot better. GIFs are very, very low quality. They're one of the lowest quality formats out there. It's good for web. It's not really good for anything else. GIFs are very situational. Now, I do GIFs because I do emotes, and I want a couple of things where the GIF plays immediately. Like if you want to share it on social media and you want to play immediately, you can do it as a video on a platform and say autoplay, or you can have it as a GIF. Some platforms will allow the GIF to play automatically. Not as much anymore. Now you have to actually give it permission in many occasions. I can understand why, because there are some bad GIFs out there, like truly dark sort of stuff. One more thing I kind of want, I got to make sure to mention these more often, but we do have stickers now. It will be available on the website here shortly. It's currently shown on there, but it's not given away to actually get them. This is something where you can be able to just, if you're a regular, you can be able to get it. They're cheap, so it's not like I'm charging a whole lot for those things. So most of them are just going to be given away for free. But that does remind me that I'm going to be trying to focus on getting the t-shirts out next. The t-shirts have been a problem for me for a while because I had way too many things I was trying to juggle. And so I put the t-shirts on hold, and the t-shirts are going to be the next thing that I focus on over the next few weeks as physical art. Especially now that the website is figured out and I can just put it on there, no problem. There's only the Castercraft side. It doesn't have the Alaska Man Jeff side right now, just because I don't think there's a whole lot of interest for that anymore. The Alaska Man Jeff stuff kind of faded. It became Castercraft over this last year, and we had a whole lot of people that we're really big on the Alaska Man Jeff side of these streams, and now that has changed. The majority of people around here are here for Castercraft. They're not here for the gaming side, which I think is a good thing for the most part. The good thing in that now the streams are recognized for that. But it wasn't the case for a while. For a while, there were a lot of people who were like, hey, let's just only have the Fortnite stuff, or let's only have the roleplay stuff. Now it's art and story. That was what I was hoping it would become eventually. But because of that means that any of the branding stuff I was going to do for Alaska Man Jeff, it just kind of got nullified, which again is perfectly fine. It had to happen for Castercraft to really take off. Not saying Castercraft is taken off, so to speak, as other people would define taking off, but it's taken off compared to what I was expecting, compared to where it was beforehand. The amount of views that Castercraft has gotten is hundreds fold of what it used to be, thousands fold. It was so hard to get this channel up and running. And it's not even very good, like I said. It's a work in progress. But it is starting to come together in such a way that I don't feel very nervous about it now. Not to say that I was like super nervous about it to begin with, but I'm no longer worried that things could fall apart in a moment. It might be this Saturday or maybe next Saturday, but I'm going to do another daytime stream, and it's going to be for Castercraft. But I may actually do it on the Alaskan Jeff side of things, because that tends to do better in the daytime. Castercraft tends to do better in the evening. I don't know what will happen on that, but it's going to be some sort of artwork. But the question is, will it be art? Will it be animation? I don't know. So it's all because of the automatic frames per second setting. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Glad you're able to figure that out. When I was learning the process of animating, I didn't know where to start. I did not have any guide. No one was there to really give me pointers. It was very frustrating, honestly. And I fought with it over and over for months. I would try and learn animation from documentaries, watching behind the scenes, trying to find the secrets, because I didn't have a window into how it worked. Streaming had not taken off yet. I didn't have the ability to go and ask people questions. I didn't have the ability even to go through documentaries to find like tutorials on it. I didn't have the ability to go through tutorials. I only had documentaries, and they would usually show one thing, and then you have to pause the frame and study it to try and figure out what it was they were doing. Well, when I was trying to learn frame rates, I couldn't figure it out for the life of me. I was fighting with it for weeks, just trying to understand frame rates. Because the software I had didn't work very well. I got really cheap stuff because I couldn't afford anything nice. Well, eventually I finally figured it out by tearing apart a scene from the animation Lion King. And from there, I worked on piecing together the animation again from frames. And then it all clicked, and I figured out all the settings I needed. But it took so long to get to that part. It would have been a lot faster if I could have just followed a tutorial, or if the software just kind of came with defaults. Now everything comes with defaults, and it's kind of easy to get up to speed on something in a single week, sometimes even a single day. Makes it a lot faster. I missed out on a lot of opportunities because of that, of having to learn everything by myself. But it's not bad to have to learn things on your own. In fact, there's a lot of great potential if you learn things by yourself. You learn to become a troubleshooter, a problem solver, and eventually, it does start to pay off. You start to find opportunities to use it in your daily work, and sometimes people even start hiring you based upon that ability to troubleshoot. But it's no fun when you're just trying to get started. I'm not really animating in like the whole scene. I'm just experimenting with effects like rain. I'm a big fan of 2D animated comics, where some or all of the image are slightly animated. Those are actually very nice. Yeah, I do like that sort of style. You know, Jersey, I've been thinking about what you said last night. And, you know, I can understand why you believe what you believe. I don't necessarily believe the same thing. I understand how you came to that conclusion. I think it's unfortunate in many ways that culture sometimes can push us down certain paths. I hope you will reconsider one day. It may take a while, but the thing I will just mention is to always keep asking questions, to always keep the ability to learn and think critically. Which part? The part where you mentioned about the reasons why why you find it very difficult to believe in God. The video you sent was interesting because for me, I saw all the more reasons to believe because of the interviews that took place. But I could see why somebody would look at stuff like that and get discouraged. And I can't necessarily change that in anybody. All I can say is that what can be discouragement for some can be hope for another. Time will tell, and eventually these questions come back to us, and we get a chance to revisit them. I am almost certain that folks in Europe will have an opportunity to revisit a lot of their questions about theology. Because in the end, Europe was, for a very, very, very long time, a great Christian continent. Humanism has caused a lot of people to grow cold in their faith, including people that are Christians. It's kind of strange because I'm in a country, on a continent, where it's the exact reverse. We're seeing a rekindling of the Spirit. We're seeing people finding revival. So it's kind of hard for me to kind of imagine what it must be like to be overseas. Well, not entirely. I live there. I know what it's like. But it's hard for me to kind of understand the confusion that can take place. Hopefully it is something where eventually we'll get a chance to revisit it and get to continue to seek answers. Because if there's one thing that matters more than anything in this life, is the destination of the soul. And some people may say it's fear tactics. I cannot necessarily argue with that. It can feel like that. But I will say that there is hope, and there really is a peace that comes with it. It may not be visible to begin with, but the older I get, the more I'm seeing it. It was a long video, and I learned a lot from it. And it also helped me to better understand different perspectives. Have you watched the video? I guess it's one of those videos where both sides come away feeling even stronger about their arguments. In some ways, yes. Now, I did watch it from start to finish. Now, something to remember is that there was a couple of arguments that I really kind of favor that were given from the Christian witnesses. One of those things is the understanding that we live in a world that has already been influenced by Christ. And sometimes that can make us color the past differently. We are also very disconnected from the past in many, many ways. And so sometimes we look at the past and it can be overwhelming, what we see. Just because we do live in a world of forgiveness. Back in the olden days, there wasn't a whole lot of forgiveness. There was basically only vengeance. And it's hard to remember that. Now, here in the Americas, there were a lot of native tribes that were dealing with that. And when the first missionaries came over, it made a lot of the people that were being abused feel like they had hope. The reason why I wanted to bring this up again is because of something you mentioned a while back. And it's just something to remember. Well, I don't know all the arguments that made you become the way that you are, or the things that speak to you the most. I have a rough idea. I don't know what the actual definitive moment was for you. And so my apologies for not being able to see that. But I do want to just pass on this. Youth is a time of wanting to try and be accepted. It's a time of where you want to try and understand the world. And sometimes that can become very, very worrisome, because then you're around people that you start to get concerned about them. I don't know if that's the case that you're in, but I do know somebody where that actually was the case. And they took a very unfortunate path and started taking other people down that path too. Never stop trying to seek truth. That is my words of advice. Never stop trying to find truth. I'm convinced enough that eventually it will lead you back to Christ. I'm convinced of that. You may not be, but I've seen enough people where eventually it becomes something where they go on for a time, and like the prodigal son, they eventually start to find their way back home. I don't know if that will be your case, but I believe that if you keep seeking truth, you'll eventually come there. A man that I met when I was in high school, he was an interesting fella. He was, you could say, he was the type of person who was the anchor that would pull people and hold them. It was not a good position that he was in. I learned something from him, though. It was the power of friends. Friends are very important. They can lift you up. They can help get you on your feet. Many times they can also become people that point you down the wrong path. Some people can go along and offer you sage advice. Others, poison. I didn't have a whole lot of friends when I was growing up. I didn't have a lot of friends when I got to college. And afterwards, most of my friends cut off all ties with me. Willingly. So I never really had to worry about the challenge of trying to fit in to the culture. I was already, like Milo, an outcast. I went through life not really having any clear way of how to engage anybody or anything. It was during that time that God spoke to me the most and really started to pull on me and start to prompt me in my spirit. He had to take me away from everything in order to make sure that I was able to hear and understand. That happens for a lot of people, some more than others. Some people, it becomes a group event. For others like me, it was a very solitary event. For me, it's mostly about misalignment of principles and values. I just cannot compromise on what I truly believe. I stick to my own values and my belief of what is good and what is bad. I'm not angry at God or anything. Maybe I was before, but now I'm just disappointed, to the point where I stopped even believing in its existence. That is unfortunate to hear. It is. Is there a particular thing where it was like you looked at it and you're like, this is the thing I struggle with the most? What was it that opened up that door? I am truly curious. For me, it was there was a moment where I became very rebellious. I started to veer away from the faith, and it was actually fairly early on, and it was actually because of a movie. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to go into media and entertainment, because I saw the impact that had upon me. It destroyed me. My parents didn't even know about it. They watched and they're like, what is going on with him? They didn't realize that I was in turmoil. My world was turned upside down, and I was trying to reason with what was true and what was false. I was in that state for many months, many years. I think it was about 3 years until I finally came to my senses in many ways. It just happened. So if you were to say, though, if there's one thing that makes you, that made you say, this does not make sense, what is the thing that doesn't make sense? Maybe that's the thing. For me, it was a very traumatic experience. Again, it was in retrospect, it was kind of trivial. But for the time, it was earth-shattering. And I remember that feeling of this loss and thinking, how in tarnation can this be the way things are meant to be? Now, that changed over time. And eventually it became an area where I was able to find stability, ironically enough. The reason why I'm passionate about this stuff is because I was there. I almost went down that path, and I saw what it did to me. I always know that there is danger down that path, and I've seen what happened to some of my friends, and that's why it concerns me. It concerns me not because I don't want people to have an opinion or a direction. I just don't want them to make the same mistakes that I saw happening to people around me. That's where my heart really is. Maybe it's some podcast or something, but I guess it was thinking about concepts of hell and stuff like that, where I asked myself a question. First, is God perfect? And that led to, is God good? I don't want to worship a morally gray God. I guess that comes down to what you believe is good and what is bad. I guess that's where the foundation probably lies. I can understand the confusion. Again, I was in Europe. And I don't know if it was the case up where you were. I know where I was down in Germany, there were a couple of people that were, a couple of churches that were having a lot of folks that were struggling. For them, it was a very specific part, though. It was darkness. For them, the people that I was speaking with in Germany, they were dealing with some very difficult things that caused them to start to question the goodness of God. And for them, it was more, at least in terms of what I was seeing there, it was more that it was the fact we're in a fallen world. Now, I don't know necessarily what it was that makes you, that drives you on good versus bad, but for some people it's suffering. Some people can't stand suffering, and I can understand that. How can there be suffering if God is good? Or some other people, it's like, how can evil be overlooked? Now, there's logical reasons for a lot of that stuff. Doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's going to believe it. But I have heard a whole lot of arguments one way or the other. It was very tough when I had to actually try and defend my faith in front of my professor. I was not prepared for that. And God threw me in with the wolves, and I had to learn firsthand what that was like. And it was sobering. It was very sobering. Ethics teacher helped a lot in it. He focused mostly on understanding and debunking religions. I can understand. I find that unfortunate. Teachers have caused a lot of problems over the last couple of decades. Remember that your ability to find truth is going to definitely be something you will have to eventually come to terms with. Eventually, your teachers will start to fade in your memory, kind of like what they did for me. Eventually, you'll have to start making the decisions on your own. I wonder what that will be like. Wonder what will be the motivating factor in the future. These factors always change. It is interesting, though, to think about. A Europe thing? Oh, it's not just Europe. It's not just Europe. We have some teachers here in the U.S. that have made it their life's mission to try and destroy faith in religion. They're atheists. They're staunch atheists. And I find it funny. Some of the people that are the most angry with God are the people that don't believe in him. And some of those people are teachers. Actually, I'd say most of them are. There was a teacher, angry teacher. She was furious with God, and she lashed out and kept trying to disprove him. And it was interesting. Every class became about that. In one way or another, every class she had to say something. And I was just left wondering, why? Well, eventually, one day, she mentioned that what it was that drove her. Something had gone very bad in her life. And rather than learn and grow, she became embittered. A lot of teachers end up doing this. And I believe, because there is an area in Scripture that warns about this, that those who lead in that deception have punishment. Now, for some people, that may sound terrible, but you have to understand, if there is truth and somebody willingly tries to push people down a path of lies because they themselves are angry, that becomes a big problem. Well, the reason why I bring up this person is because this teacher said at the start of the class that they were going to convert students away from the faith. And I watched as 3 students lost their faith in that class. I felt so sorry for them. I tried reasoning with them, but they had chosen their path. We're given the opportunity to choose what path we want to be on. It's one of the benefits of being in this world. We're not forced. We are not machines that are dictated that this is going to happen or that's going to happen. We are given the opportunity to choose. Now, there are some people that are chosen, and that changes everything. And that is a bit of predestination. And some people believe predestination is for everything. And some other folks are a bit more balanced on that view, and they tend to think that there are some things you're predestined for and other things that you're not. But one thing we are definitely all told is that we do have choice in this world. By the way, I finished a new illustration with a rain animation test. I sent it to Discord. I'll send it to Discord in a moment. I really appreciate if you could give me some feedback later when you have time. Even comment in text chat so I can do little fixes. Indeed. Will do. Hopefully, though, for those students that I knew, hopefully things change for them one day. There was one student that stands out in my memory. She was angry. Her parents passed away in a car crash. Her grandparents were raising her. She had just gotten to college, and everything became about the loss of life that she had suffered. She was angry with everybody, angry with the world, angry with her friends, angry with life, angry with God, and angry with herself. She was lashing out, and one day, someone called her out for it and said, "You are loved by so many people. Do not allow your love basically to... Don't allow that love to be pointless. Allow yourself to heal, to move on." And it made her very upset to hear that, because she was very used to the pain and she didn't want to have to leave it. Eventually she did, though, and she transformed tremendously. I remember seeing that transformation, like it's a completely different person. Earlier today, I was at church, and we got to learn about Lazarus. Now, Lazarus is an interesting fella. He was deeply loved by Jesus. And the only time where we really hear about Jesus weeping is in this moment. He finds out that his friend has passed. And it grieves him, even though he has power over life and death, because he cared and he hated to see people in suffering. And so he went to the tomb and he said, "This was done so that people may believe." And he called him out of the tomb. 3 days the man lay dead, and suddenly he's back alive. Everyone saw it, and news spread fast, to the point of where the Pharisees said, "This is grounds to kill him." And they wanted to kill not only Jesus, but also Lazarus. By the way, we learn about this in the book of John. And in that moment, Jesus has revealed how it is that he has power over life and death. And for some people, it was a moment of hope and joy. For others, it was a point of anger and bitterness the old order was being changed. Mercy was going to be not only change the order of things, it was going to invite a whole new group into the family, the Gentiles. The whole reason why the world of the West became so Christian was because of this moment. The Jews did not want this to happen. And God said, no, this is going to be something where I start to grab people from all races and bring them into the family. By the way, that was actually part of the task that Israel was given when they were founded as a nation. And they didn't follow through with it. Oh, okay. Pulling up the art right now. Open image. Alrighty, let's take a look at this. Ooh, very nice. Ah, good addition of the rain there. Nicely done. Yeah, I see what the difference between the GIF and the video. And you'll notice right here, it's actually, it's because that color compression. So yeah, that is indeed what you're dealing with. Noise and dithering will help that out. It doesn't always work for different shots, but this one, I think it actually would help. Good lighting on that. And let's see here. I like your shading. Your shading is definitely a strength there. Some of the shapes, like the areas back here, it's a little soft, and so you might want to try and harden up the brush on that stuff. It will just make things stand out a little bit nicer. The technique I have been doing for this, where you will see that where everything is very hard lined. I have the ability to soften it afterwards, but you want things that are going to be along the edge to be hard. You want the shading to be soft. So definitely make sure to double check that when you got some of the items like this. Now, it can be style, and so I definitely would not say that there's anything wrong with that. I like the improvements that you've done. This stands out. The dimensions, sorry, the different limbs or whatnot stand out a lot better than did for this one. So this one was good, but you've definitely taken it to the next level for this. You've gotten the shading, you've gotten the hard lines, but to help separate some of the elements out. Maybe you'd be a little bit stronger right here, but that is honestly going to be fine for this sort of image. Your colors are well balanced for this scene. Now, the neon vest, that is a little harsh, but that is something where that kind of will come with experience about how to kind of pull that off. I find that neon kind of helps if you focus on the highlights of it, and to always maintain shadow, because otherwise it starts to feel like it's glowing. And yes, neon does kind of have a bit of a glowing look to it, but it can stand out a little too much. I just mute that a little bit. Does the clothing look wet? I'm trying to give that illustration to the jumpsuit. Oh yeah. It does look wet. One of the things that you can do is to add a little bit of cooling for the water in some. Let me copy the image and bring it over to Illustrator. Sorry, not Illustrator, Flip Paint. All right, so let's make this look a little bit wetter, because this is a good foundation. If you want things to really look like this character is in the rain, you're going to want it to have a wet shine to it. And this is going to be a very hard line, and it's going to be reflective of anything around the scene. And it's going to be along the outside. It's not going to be on the inside. So if you want to have like a drip of water, you're going to want it to be transparent. Something along the lines of this. Study dribbles off of like plants or whatnot. It is or off a building is very helpful. From being able to figure this part out. There's many different techniques for pulling this off. Some people will draw a solid shape and they will eat away at it. So I'm going to do that right here, where it's going to be solid. And then someone will come along and then they'll use an erase brush to eat away at it. I kind of do an outline sort of technique because my brain kind of works easier with that. But notice what that does. It makes it look like they are in the rain a lot more. You want to have some runoff, some veins of water that's going along here. Things like that. Have some extra shine along the edge to show that the water's coming off of it. And going around the edge there. And you're going to want to do this for the majority of it. And it's a very quick process, honestly. Once you start getting the hang of it, and you can have like some splashes that are going to be along here, things like this. Just some specks that you move along, and that way it helps it to really stand out. Nice, hard, sharp brush for this sort of stuff. Should the hard helmet texture look different from the jumpsuit? Technically, it's a water-resistant jumpsuit, so shouldn't it be slightly shiny and similar to the helmet? I don't know. Oh, I got some splashes all around. They're just very soft. Yes, you definitely want to have them as hard. Like I do see you have it right here, but try and make it even stronger. Like you can have some of it in the background blurred like that because that helps out with the texture, but you're going to want to have a little bit of a hard water splash for it to really stand out. So there are going to be different techniques for different materials. Like down here, you're already off to a good start with this. You have the concept done, and so you're going to have like something like this, where it's a hard, wet surface look. Because the water's going to it's going to give it either a glaze, or it could do something where it's going to bead. And now that can also happen. Like my jacket, it's going to be beading. And so to bead, one of the things you can do is to kind of do something similar where you create a solid object and then you remove a little bit, maybe add a little bit of a highlight underneath it. And then you can also do this. You can add a shadow. Add a shadow underneath it. Blur it a little bit so that way it stands out. Okay, that did not turn out very well. Let me do a couple over here. this will make a little bit more sense. So we're going to blur it like this. And then we're going to do a droplet. So some items are going to kind of have water like this. Now, granted, I did the droplets very large, but you can do them a little bit smaller. And one of the benefits to this, once you have it, you can just duplicate it around. Shift it a little bit. And there you have extra droplets. Problem solved. But yeah, so those are the techniques that I would go to try to make the character wetter. And if it's going to be like the face or whatnot, so the skin is going to be, it's going to not bead on the skin. It's going to be very, very smooth. And so you're going to want to do highlights like this, and then have definitely some shine and dribble like that. If you're going to have it on the face as well. Now, if you don't, then kind of irrelevant. But it's just going to be along the outside like that. And that just makes things look a little bit wetter. And one thing you can also do is just add a little bit of a shadow underneath it. So we grab this and just add a little bit of a shadow under there, turn on to multiply. Just so it looks like there's an object that's kind of obscuring the color a little bit. Okay, that did not turn out so well, but I have used this technique in the past and it does work. Not always necessary. But anyway, those are the techniques I would go about to try and improve upon this. But overall, it did turn out well. You might not have the foot appearing right here. It might be a little tough to see it just because of this pose. But everything else turned out really well. I do like the tape sort of technique you have going for the helmet there, so it's a good one. It's one of the first times where I did the background. Do you think the character should have more pronounced connections with the background, or is it okay-ish? Having it blurred like this is just fine because it's rain. Rain obscures things. What I would do is have something right here. An object, maybe debris, maybe rocks, I don't know, but something on either side of the character like this. And make it in focus. So that way it looks like the other things are out of focus. That way you just have to do a little bit in the background you don't have to spend a whole lot of time on. But it helps to connect the character to the background. Make it like it's a very, like it's a depth of field thing that's taking place. Glad to be able to help. Hopefully it gives you some ideas, because you have been making good progress on that. So well done. I'm gonna have to change the eyes after a little bit here, because I do not like how those eyes are turning out. I'm gonna have to make them a little bit more closed. I forgot how the shadows are gonna make it look different. We're gonna have to bring this stream to a close here. It is 1:15. I need to go to bed so I can get up for work. Tomorrow we are going to try and do more of this. We're going to be giving X a try, along with YouTube and Rumble. Let me see if there's anyone on the Twitch side we can raid tonight. There hasn't been anyone the last couple of days. I think multiple people are jumping ship on Twitch. It's been shell-shocking to a lot of folks what's been going on. Like, oh good, we do have somebody we can go and raid. It'll be Pantheon. That'll be good. On that note, we are going to be bringing this stream to an end. Again, for the foreseeable future, we're going to be closing down the Twitch side. So, YouTube, Rumble, and X is where we will be for the next couple of days, weeks, months, until we figure out what the new rhythm is going to be and what the future will hold. Have a pleasant night, everyone. No matter where you fall on your skill sets, the challenges you're facing in life, be civil to one another. And let's go and spread some civility on the Twitch side over to Pantheon 3D. And to the folks on the other platforms, if you found something of merit, it would be great if you would like the stream. If you didn't, feel free to dislike it. I'll accept that too. It will be it'll be something where I hope one day we don't have to worry about having to try and tell the difference between people and bots, but it's still the best way to be able to tell. If you found something that you would like to encourage and want to see more of, be sure to mention it as well in the comments if you so desire. Starting the raid. And after this, we will close out the stream for all. Until next time, folks, have a very pleasant evening.